Happy Thursday, Keith Tebow from FRCmedia. Thank you for joining us on what looks like, again, another beautiful early summer day here in southern New England. It's Thursday, and we're pleased to be joined by Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan. Mr. Mayor, how are you this morning?
I'm fine, Keith. How's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you. A few things I want to touch upon today. First and foremost, we're now in the second week of phase 2 of reopening from the Commonwealth. We talked a little bit about Government Center being open last week. From what you're seeing in terms of local businesses, how has it been working, and have there been any major hitches in terms of some of these businesses looking to reopen?
I wouldn't say any major hitches. I just say it's work, things that we want to do to make sure they can get themselves back on their feet. A lot of our restaurants are up and running with outdoor dining now. We went out to eat the other night. My wife and I felt like we were doing something wrong. I mean, it's that different because nobody's been out in so long, but they are up and running, and we're doing some things to assist them to try to get it going. I'm hearing next week you may see some additional things opening on Monday, but it's not official yet, so we'll see how it plays out. But I would say there's been no major glitches at this point.
We have heard of a couple instances in terms of restaurants, in terms of the reopenings, they still had some questions about the outdoor opening. And one of the questions had to do with, I guess, the need for jersey barriers if you're want to open in a parking lot, and who is responsible for those. Have you heard any of that type of questions? I've heard from a couple of people.
Yeah, we have had a discussion on that. Glenn Hathaway, our building inspector, is recommending that because he doesn't want to see a bunch of people sitting at a table get hit by a car, which could happen if there wasn't the proper security up. I know he's talked to some people and granted them some flexibility, but when they're in a parking lot or they're on a city street, he's kind of being insistent on some kind of a immovable barrier so that if a car goes out of control, there's safety for the people dining.
And in terms of Government Center, we talked a little bit about it just before we came on. Things still to be running smoothly in terms of people gaining access to the building?
I would say so. I try to walk around once a day anyway and see what's going on in the offices. It's still relatively quiet in here, but people know they can come in now, and they are making appointments. Talked to one of the people down in the building inspector's office. They said it's been quiet. People are reluctant. We hope people are relying on Bay Coast to go pay their bills so they don't have to come into the building. They don't even have to get out of their car if they don't want to. So working with our partners, we're trying to make sure we get some things done.
Last week of schools this week in the city of Fall River. I know there's going to be a lot of discussions about what's going to be happening next. I believe that's going to be coming down from the state relatively soon. But I guess from what you've heard, Mayor, for the past 3 months, the students working home or remotely and online, has there been any at least snap judgment in terms of how this all worked out and what the city and the school can learn from all this?
Well, I think what we've learned is we have to be ready to be flexible. That whole nightmare of online learning, distance learning was dumped into kids' laps that are in grades 1 to 5. High school kids are pretty adaptable at that age, but we did that across the board in our elementary schools, and that's extremely difficult. For example, if you go to Fonseca when they're doing the lunch program, they have boxes there with grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 with learning packets in it, and the kids bring back the work they've done and they get a new packet. It's extremely trying. Teachers are really pounding away at that computer all day, and I'm hoping going forward that we have a plan developed. There is definitely some positive things we're looking at, like standardized lessons that are delivered online as opposed to online learning, an actual lesson. And I know we're looking at ways to reform it. We're also trying to make sure we get as many kids Chromebooks as we can, so if something happens, God forbid, whether there's a second wave or anything, we're ready to go. So stay on top of that. I was at a meeting in the ad building where the administrative team was discussing that very same issue. So let's see how it plays out.
Any idea on when the state will be releasing some guidelines in terms of how school may look in the fall? I know that Rhode Island is looking at standardizing as much as it can. Again, a smaller state, but any word that you know?
I kept hearing it was going to be this week, but we haven't heard anything yet. But I mean, I'm in favor of getting school as close to normal as possible. Now, obviously, there's distance requirements and there's cleanliness issues and there's hand washing and there's masks. All those things would come into play. But I mean, the things I hear about week on, week off, part time, 10 to a room, restricting the number of kids in a bus, all those things are extremely expensive. And if those things all come to be, then we're going to really explode the school budget. So I'm hoping that there's some compromise across the board and everybody works together. And if those things are mandated, that the state picks up some of those bills.
I want to switch gears a little bit now to last, I believe it was a week ago, you met with a group of residents to discuss how the city can be more inclusive. Police Chief Cardoza what was with you. I know this is something you're going to be continuing as an ongoing basis. Let me just ask you, how did that come about, and what was that first meeting like?
It came about because, at a protest, it's tough sometimes to hear exactly what people are saying and what they're looking for from their city. So what we did was we figured, let's bring them in to a small group. Some of the kids that were doing the protest, some of the kids were at the protest, and some of the kids spoke at the protest. And let's hear their voices clearly on what direction they think the city should go. I thought it was really much better than I ever thought, because they all wanted to talk. They wanted to make sure that they had something to say that was positive, and it was a very, very positive experience. I was so proud of a lot of the old kids I had at Durfee that spoke up, and they had an opinion. The next one we're working on right now is where we're going to try to bring in some of the minority officers off of the Fall River PD and let them talk about their experience in the city of Fall River, with racism, with no racism, how they were treated, what's it like working here, what are the residents like. We want them to give a firsthand experience of their role in the city of Fall River as police officers. These are the kind of conversations that have to be done out front like that, so people can hear what's going on. The next one, I do believe we're going to allow cameras in, still under some number of spectators restraints we can have, so we're going to look at that again before we bring it out. But we think we can televise that one. The first one we tried to keep the media out because I didn't know if it was going to be a bunch of people sitting on their hands, but it was a real freewheeling conversation. Our Chief Cardoza did a great job, and I compliment all the participants. They really spoke up, and it went well. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, and in sort of in conjunction with that, tomorrow I know that you're planning to hold an event close to the public still at Government Center to recognize Juneteenth, June 19th, the date in which officially slavery ended in the United States. What does that event look like for tomorrow?
Again, it's going to be a low-key event. We'll allow cameras if someone wants to record it. That'll be fine. We figure we'll have a few songs to memorialize the day, a few speakers. We'll acknowledge the Emancipation Proclamation and what that did for the United States. The Chief of Police is coming. One of the police officers is going to sing a song, and hopefully one of our former students from Durfee will sing. It's going to be, as I said, a low-key event, but it's a somber time, and it's a part of American history that in this day and age with what's going on across the country, we want people to know we do appreciate what their ancestors went through, and we want to make Fall River a better place to live.
And finally, this week, Mayor, last week you had sent out, your office sent out a press release concerning making sure that people in the city adhere to the noise ordinances. It appears that in a number of communities there are fireworks that go off, and people are sort of in terms of, I don't know if it's pent up frustration in some ways, in terms of releasing some of their frustration because of COVID-19. What's been the status of that? Are people behaving more? Have there been more complaints concerning noise late at night?
Yeah, it seems like that's something that's bubbling up across the state of Massachusetts. I tell people in Boston, the first week of June had 22 complaints for fireworks. The first week in 2020, they had over 1,500. It's crazy. It's also dangerous. A fireworks goes off sideways into an apartment somewhere. The noise for people trying to sleep, for our elderly, for our young people. We want them sleeping at night. I understand it around the 4th of July, but it's going on all the time now. When we really ask our citizens to help us police this, I have had a conversation with the chief about it. For example, the other night they went down to a tot lot in Flint, and a bunch of kids were letting off fireworks, and all the police did was take them, and they didn't know why they were taking them. They didn't even understand it was illegal to be shooting them off in a park in the city. And I think if parents and if role models throughout the community impress on people that this is not safe, as soon as a building goes up in flames because of fireworks or someone gets hurt, we're going to have a whole different discussion going in this community. And anything you do to help us, we really appreciate it. No one supports that. 4th of July, okay, we may do a wink on that one day, but this is every night.
Speaking of 4th of July, are plans still moving forward for some sort of an event? We've had fireworks in the past. It's only a couple of weeks away.
We have fireworks every night, Keith. We just talked about it. So no, regretfully, we kicked it around for a long time, but we're not going to be able to have a crowd like that anywhere in the city. Fireworks. It's just one of those things where we are working on a couple of events. We think we can keep them low key and make it safe for people to attend, but we're not there yet. So, I mean, obviously the biggest one in the area was Bristol, Rhode Island, with their parade, their fireworks, their concerts, and that's all gone. So regretfully, we're going to have to follow them.
Yeah. All right. Mayor Paul Coogan, as always, thank you so much. We'll talk again next week. Take care.
Okay, Keith. Thank you.
All righty. And we want to thank you for joining us, as always, here on FRC Media. Please join us at our website, frmedia.org, for more information as we continue to provide local news and information in the city of Fall River.